Rita, would you do a roll call?
Mr. Rubini?
Here.
Mr. Kent?
Yeah.
Mr. Rush?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Yeah.
Chairman Smith?
Here.
Let the record show that Chairman Lyons and who else? Doherty are absent with notice. And present also are the town attorney, Mr. Randolph, and the town manager, Mr. Thrasher. And that's it.
Thank you, Rita. You were all given the minutes to the last meeting in draft form. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, deletions, or changes to the minutes? We have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Rubini?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, or arrangements to the agenda items? There was a handout in front of you that came in since your package on Villa Desk. It's the second or third item on the agenda today. You can take a look at it when we get there. You see that we've had future meeting dates. Get them in your calendar. If anybody has a conflict with any of those dates, please let Rita know. We can first talk about October 22nd. How does it look for everybody here?
Probably not for me, Tom.
Okay? You
I
okay?
can confirm near the date. Probably not.
Okay, so it looks like Malcolm maybe. Thank you, Malcolm. I didn't ask, but is there any, anybody have any, disclose any conflict of interest or had any ex parte communications about any of the subjects we're going to discuss today? If not, Rita, would you swear in whoever may present today?
Anyone that wants to speak during this meeting, please stand and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
I think first up is Mark Marsh with an application for a residence. Mark, we've seen a residence on this location before, correct?
Yes.
So would you just give us a little history from the before to the now?
Well, just for the record, Mark Marsh, Bridges Marsh Architects, representing Patricia and Rich. We're by first name now because this is the second time. There's another time we'll be nicknamed. Anyway, on a more serious note, both Patricia and Rich made a very courageous decision earlier in the summer. As you, the chair just mentioned, you had approved a 14,000 square foot house on this lot previously, and we were working diligently to proceed towards the construction documentation and almost to the point of going out to building permit. And they revisited the project themselves and came to us, and we openly discussed some of their concerns. And not that it wasn't a beautiful house, it was obviously approved unanimously, but they felt that some of the scale, size, and maybe their lifestyle were not really represented totally in the original program and the original design. If you recall, it was a two-story house, and what we have in front of us today is a single-story house, which again, as I said, after meetings and serious discussions, and it's an admirable decision that they made, because it's not normal that people stop, revisit, and reboot, as the term is. And I think they did the right thing. I'm very proud of them for doing that. It's, in all my experience, I haven't run into this situation, but they obviously were not comfortable and were honest enough to acknowledge that and bring that to our attention. So today what we're presenting is a new residence on the same lot. The lot is 1424 North Ocean Boulevard. I think most of you are familiar with it. And all done is, in revisiting the whole program and their desires as to what would be their ultimate home and an estate that they intend to keep in the family for a long time, was to now approach it from a single-story program. The siding is very similar to where it was originally in terms of the setback. This is the basin here. North is to the left, which is the golf course. We have houses on the east and the west. The setback is very similar to what was there proposed before. One of the larger changes, or the more significant changes, is the location of the driveway. Originally, we had the driveway coming in at this point, and again, mimicking this kind of estate approach. What we felt after revisiting it is the ownership actually takes in this little triangle portion here, which is paved and is actually deeded or an easement for right-of-way. It's an awkward corner. It has a little sodded island with a large royal palm in it, and it's very difficult to negotiate. So what we're proposing to do is to reorient the main driveway access on this corner, remove and fill in and pave that triangle portion, and then have the approach very similar to what we had before, where we're trying to give it, as I said, an estate approach, where the driveway would come in to a motor court, and then the house, you would enter the house up a series of parterre stairs, which I'll show you later on. The basic house, the reason for the change, not only on the single-story decision, was to again revisit the primary orientation and viewing from the property. It's afforded some incredible views, especially to the southwest here and the open basin, and hence you'll see on the plan, and you can make it out here. We've created a kind of a wingspan orientation where some of the primary rooms are oriented directly towards those viewing areas. The house is basically a U-shaped. It does have a pavilion, which I'll show you again shortly. A pool on the south side, which is very natural. There's not a lot of hardscape, which you'll see. So basically, you come into the motor court. The garage service area is on the east side, three-car garage. There is a slat house here, which is depicted on the lower part of the image here, which is primarily for the air conditioning and generator. It'll be a slat. You may or may not be familiar with a slat house. It's more associated with like an orchid house. It's just a slat open air, but it has a slatting detail which gives it some coverage. We're not in any way asking for any variances, special exceptions. We exceed the required setbacks. It's, as you can see, it's fairly central in the lot. And I think it now utilizes, as for those who heard earlier, it's a small house. It's 9,800 or 9,900 square feet on a large lot. And it's refreshing to be able to, work with owners that don't want to overbuild. And that's kind of where we were on the first version. The floor plan this is a reduced floor plan. This is now, north is this way. You enter from the motor court up a series of very monumental shallow stairs, a stair walkway to an entry portico into the foyer, into a great room. And one of the program requirements that we readdressed here was they're very concerned. They have 2 young children, and they wanted to create an isolated bedroom wing, which is this wing here on the west, and then to have the other area be the more public, entertaining area. On the 2-story, it created a little bit of impediment to that, achieving that, but I won't go through the whole detail. This is a service garage, kitchen, family room, private loggia, and then that goes through a breezeway to the pavilion, and then that's centered on the pool. The great room opens onto a loggia, and then it will, again, oriented, and the pool is symmetrical and an axis with that element. The master bedroom or master suite is bedroom, bathroom. It has a private loggia patio area here, which is screened in, and then you have there's an office here, and then a playroom, and then 2 children's bedrooms here. So there's a strict privacy to the west side, or the right side of the image on the house. We have been able to consolidate, obviously, some of the space, and we've gone from 14,000 to effectively 7,000 of living space. So it's about a 4,000 reduction from what you previously looked at, and we were able to still fulfill their program requirements. These are just blow-ups of it. You all have those. Again, just some of the areas in kitchen, family room. The roof plan, being single-story and rather this kind of very spread out plan, the scale of the roof is very important. We have a 7 and 12 pitch, again, to give it, again, some proportional mass relative to the vertical height of the walls that support the roof. The 2 wings are here. The main roof is in the central section. It does have a flat top area, which we're proposing to put on solar panels because the Beans and both Rich and Patricia are very concerned about energy savings. These are the wings and the pavilion here. I just apologize. I was notified that the reason it's not a different tile, it's just the geometry of the angle, that on the graphics it distorts it, but it's all a flat cement tile.
White or gray?
Gray, I'll show you shortly. Gray. This is the view from the motor court to the arrival area. Everything is very balanced, as you can see, so there's a lot of symmetry, which we strive to achieve. You come up these steps into this portico element, which is a pediment feature, a very classic element. You'll note on your staff comments that we're actually at 14 feet, and if you recall the last time we met on this project, we had a long and lengthy discussion about vertical height of entry elements. We are in the, technically, we're in the, Bill might have to correct me here, the, what's the term, discouraged?
I believe you're in the prohibited area there.
Or in the prohibited.
We'll say discouraged.
Discouraged, I think, is the word we decided, or the category. Again, you'll see it's important to have an element that has the scale to support the bounds of the house, and I think it's done in good proportion. The rear, again, is very balanced. This is the central loggia off the great room, and we've got a segmented arch element, which you'll see in the video more clearly. We've got a Chippendale rail on the top, which is a flat roof over the loggia. These are the, this is the west side of the bedroom wings. There is a little loggia off the office area. We've got some louvers, some louver elements just to soften it. This is the service side, which is primarily 3-car garage, the family room wing, and the laundry room utility areas. It's very hard to illustrate in 2 dimensions because of the angle, so there is some distortion. This is that whole wing again with the pavilion element here connected by a breezeway. This is the rear or south with the pavilion superimposed, and then this is the west looking again with the pavilion element and the breezeway. This is a cross section through the main entry. That's that portico element I mentioned. The volume of the great room and foyer, and then this is that gradual step down terracing, and that's a typical interior or exterior elevation of the wing. In this case, the bedroom. The garage wing mimics it exactly. These are, again, some renderings done, which will be better illustrated in the video. Again, that front entry element. To the question of colors, it's going to be a moonlight, which is a very subtle, with a teal or St. Lucia teal green on the shutters, and then a super white trim. And the gray tile is here. I keep bringing these, I don't know what Rita does with them, but she's re-roofing something. But you can see the colors are very pleasing, very understated. And here you can see, you know, the mahogany front door element with the front entry pediment element, which I think is nowhere out of scale by any means. This is the rear. You can see the Chippendale rail, segmented arch element, pavilion, or the pavilion here. These are the private. That's the private loggia from the master bedroom, which would have louvered screens. This is the west elevation. That's the pavilion again. And I'll flick through this because you'll appreciate it better in the flyby. This is the east, again, the service area. I don't see, I'm going to have to take you through the landscaping. For some reason, Keith Williams or Matt has not shown it. So let me just take you through the landscaping, and then I'll come back to questions and answers, if that's okay. As I mentioned, the driveway now is in really the northwest quadrant of the site. And you enter through a gate, which we'll illustrate shortly. We have reused or two existing sea grapes, which will arch over to the entry element. A lot of the landscaping, we've made a serious effort to reuse some of the established landscaping on the property. A lot of it actually is currently in a holding area because we were going to start construction in April, so we do, and it's in good shape. You come into the motor court here. This will be a paved driveway bordered with coquina, and these will be pavers. Currently, this would be a tabby concrete motor court element, and then you go back into the pavers, all in very complementary colors, very sandy, beigey colors. And then on the south, there was a large amount of discussion on the size of the pool, shape of the pool, and again, because both Patricia and Rich want to keep a very passive lawn on the south side, we didn't want to get what is normal, where you have a lot of hardscape elements that interfere with that soft approach. We came up with this oval. It was, I think, somewhat unanimously agreed on. We went from octagonal circles to all, but we thought that this was a more gracious form for the pool. As I mentioned, it's on axis with the entry and the great room loggia, as well as the pavilion. There is a fire pit element here, just walkways again, and very little hardscape. Previously we had some ponds and some other elements, but again we just wanted to keep this as simple as possible. This is a blow up of that area, the arrival area here, and again you can see the strong axes across the motor court. This is the garage area service, and that's the slat house element, which has all the elements. This is a blow up of the pool area. A lot of these, that's an existing tree. Again, we have we're buffering on both sides and then creating palms at random, again, just to give us unimpeded view, but give some shading and scale to the area. This is the front elevation from the motor court. There's an alley of palms that go up on either side, leading to the front door. And then there's just some normal foundation planting. The alley of palms, I think, is going to make a very nice kind of perspective entrance towards the front door. On the back, as I said, the coconut palms are mature so that they don't impede the view. You'll be able to see through them, but yet they'll give scale and shade. And then on the edges, you'll see very substantial buffering from both adjacent properties. This is the entry element that's proposed. This is a wall, knee wall with some ironwork, just simple pickets on top and gates. These are the two existing sea grape trees which will be encouraged to grow over. These are actual pictures, so these are to scale. Hardscape, as I said, this depicts how limited the hardscape is for a property of this size, which again is always positive. The plant materials, as I said, is basically reusing as much of the established existing landscape as we can. We've got, again, a lot of lawn area, not a lot of overplanting. There'll be 4 trees that anchor the corners of the motor court. And those will be tababui or something that's going to have some color. The idea is to create some citrus elements, again, so along the driveway entry, you get that feel of a little kind of a orchard look. But it's all very simple. I can't pronounce half the names, so just bear with me. And as said, we will be using a paver, limited pavers for the hardscape link from the pool to the pavilion, and then on the foreground of the loggia and the kind of private loggia off the family room, the breezeway. And these will be slab materials, most likely of either cast stone or patina. It's yet to be determined. This is the drainage, which is completely reversed. Engineers do everything differently than the architects. The basin's here, but again, we have to have our on-site septic system, which is a drain field here, and we meet all the criteria. We provide all the drainage to meet the codes in terms of retention. That's showing the asphalt fill in on that corner. Those are not very exciting. I will just give you a quick flyby, if I can, with Hollis's assistance. That's that front entry with the alley of palms leading up to the front door. This is the garage wing or service wing that I said mimics the other side, which is the bedroom wing. This is the motor court area here. I just have to point out that the landscaping here is not, because of the limited selection from video, it's showing the right scale, but some of the material may not be the exact material that we're using. This is that west side. That's a private loggia off the master bedroom. The main loggia, segmented arches. This is from the water looking back. The pavilion on the right. Pool. Again, using the segmented arch on the pavilion. Introduction of louvers on the breezeway. The coconut trees that show the scale. That's a fire pit in the foreground. This is the breezeway, looking on the service wing. Garage. So it's, the whole service here is tucked out of view totally. Here you can start to see the angle that orients towards the basin and the coastline. That boat hasn't been acquired yet. There is a dock, an existing dock there. So this kind of shows you that it's not overbuilding and it's really preserving, as I said, the natural buffers which we have on either side, and just creating a very simplistic palette of landscape and hardscaping to complement the architecture. That's that driveway. He actually, the video guy didn't pick up on removing the triangles. So that's what we have, and I'll answer any questions of the commission may have.
Any comment from the park? Any feedback from the neighbors?
Yeah, now that I know it.
No,
Nothing from the neighbors.
nothing.
You're gonna raise the finished floor area, are you raising the property with those steps up, or are you doing
Yes,
that with just?
we were up to, I think, 11 feet actually. The average is about 8.5, so it's actually 3 feet from the motor court to the,
That was my next question, it was what, about 1 foot, well, not quite a foot, but you stepping up at 6 inch in it?
yeah, 6 inches, yeah,
heights?
very gracious, very shallow steps leading up.
There's a little bit of a road on the west side of the property, are you leaving that in or digging that up? You know, there's a,
Let me see.
they own it, as you go past the triangle and you.
Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna
It's
go back.
It's right there.
You can see it right there.
Yeah, it's on the other side, Mark. 'Cause-
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, now,
Yeah.
is that going to
That's-
just stay?
No, that's closed up. That will not be, at most, there may be a pedestrian entry. At
No, but I
most.
mean, is the road
Oh, that
service another
services,
home?
that services the house on the.
Okay.
Sorry, but there is a driveway currently here on our property.
Yeah, there is.
Which is gonna be abandoned and removed.
Bill, the issue on the entry feature, it's taller than we think code allows or recommends.
It's taller than what is described or allowed in our code. There has been comments by more than one architect as it relates to the scale of a home, requiring a higher height of than what our code provides. There is language that supports that concept. And then secondly, the current definition does not, and the current code does not add language presently, but proposed to change as it relates to encapsulatures and other elements. So it's a situation in which I believe you could allow, if you feel it's in scale, and/or add a condition to the approval process to lower it, if you feel that complements the scale and the architectural style and size and mass of the home.
What do you think?
Leaving that on
It
your
looks
shoulders.
it looks in scale to me.
It is in scale, yeah. I mean, but here, I mean, we have a proposed house that only is 65% of the allowable square footage that they're allowed to build. The eaves surrounding the house fall within the, they're less than 10.5 feet, which is in the preferred range. And it's a one-story house on one of the largest lots in Gulf Stream. And I think that it's necessary to keep the scale of the structure to allow an entryway, an entry feature, which is set well back from the road, not seen. I just think that it's completely in keeping with the design manual and the intent of the design manual.
Any other comments or questions?
One comment.
Yes, Bill?
I believe that our drawings presented, the hard copies, did not incorporate an added element, which I believe augments the proposed home. But I'd like you to verify that, and that is the introduction of louvers on at least the breezeway and one other location.
Yeah, we did make a modification to that. We felt that what was submitted originally, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago, was too heavy for that bridge connection between the main house and the pavilion. So we introduced that. So that's why I presented it.
Thank you. No other comment or questions from me?
Make a motion, Malcolm?
Yep, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of level 3 architectural site plan based on the finding of proposed Anglo-Caribbean one-story single-family dwelling with attached three-car garage, pavilion, a total of 9,988 square feet, and a swimming pool meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1. The overall height of the entry feature, including the decorative entablature, shall be less than 12 feet.
Excuse me.
That's the
one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So we're going to say that
So
it's not. Yeah, sorry.
So it's
That's coming out.
number 2.
Yeah. So just number 2. So with the point.
Number
revision.
one's deleted,
Yeah.
and number two. we
The
got
revision to
number
the
one.
motion is deleting point 1 as I started, and point 2 now becomes point 1. Any minor modifications in the landscape shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping.
Is there a second?
Second.
Rita?
Mr. Rubini?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
It's
you
a
very much.
beautiful,
Thanks,
it's a
Mark.
beautiful job. We look forward to seeing it.
This is the
finish
last time.
going. Gonna get going on it this fall, you think?
Yes.
Or- Oh, great.
So when will you looking to move in?
February 28th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wrong here, maybe? This is, yeah.
Morning, Mark Marone, representing Sands at 3211, proposing a privacy wall using existing materials as far as lighting, gates, just setting back to a further distance to allow cars to actually approach without sticking out of the road.
Have you given yourself enough room with that, if a car fits there without sticking?
Yeah, we're over 34 feet from the gate to the street now. Before it was about 15, 16 feet. So and then we're gonna add a wall, which does not exist, over 14 feet from the property line. And it's 34 and a half feet to the street.
Are we also, Bill, approving the actual gates and gate posts?
Yes.
Okay.
The gates are actually the same gates we're gonna reuse. And the piers, we're actually going to demolish existing, rebuild new that match, just at a bigger height. to receive the wall that's gonna be actually the size of the existing post. Everything color-wise, and it's all gonna match the existing house.
You having to remove any big trees to do it?
No.
Anybody have any specific questions? Bill?
No
Ms. Cohen?
questions nor comments.
Okay. If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Yes, please.
Recommend approval.
Motion to recommend approval of the North Ocean Boulevard overlay permit to construction of a 92-foot long, 6-foot, 6-inch high masonry wall across from the property, 7-foot, 2-inch piers within the quarter. Motion to recommend,
One at a time.
You need a second. Can we do them?
Second.
Do them individually.
Okay.
We have a
All right, Rita's been moved and seconded.
Who seconded?
I'll second
Mr. Rubini,
aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
it. Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
And second, a motion to recommend approval of level 2 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed construction of a 6-foot, 6-inch by 92-foot masonry wall placed approximately 14 feet east of the front property line that includes 7-foot, 2-inch piers and the relocation of an existing gate to a location approximately 14 feet east of the front property line meet minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards.
Second.
Second.
Got a second. Mr. Rubini,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Okay.
Does he need to be sworn in?
Yes.
One moment, gotta make a change here. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shane Ames, architect, Delray Beach, Florida. Here on behalf of Mr. or Mrs. Curzon for a place au soleil. We have a couple of questions of the board in relating to entranceway height and with the feature allowed at the entrance, it's right here, versus the code is a little ambiguous. The code allows this feature here with the roof, counting the eave to the underside at the 12.5 feet, but counts a more open-looking structure with railing on top to the top of the rails, which makes this thing would have to be squished down and out of proportion. So the language in the code is kind of ambiguous at this point, and we'd like to get a reading from the board as to what that should be. Obviously, we would like to do this because we've done these all over the town, and probably a dozen homes with the balconies up on top. It feels a little more lighter and open than having a heavier roof element up into there, and a little more in proportion to the massing of the house itself.
Is the sketch on the right
The sketch on the right is with the balcony.
higher?
It's the same height as,
Oh, as this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
the bottom one is the roof element, which is in there. We feel that the balcony railing one looks much better and much more open. And the actual overall massing of the height of the top of the roof versus the top of this, the massing of this is lower than the roof itself.
Did you have anything on here you want to use? Richard brought that when he brought the drone.
Okay, it's probably the same.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you just have to go to the file manager and you can open it up. Yeah, close that. There we go, open file
Yeah, I've
manager.
been using,
Here's our site plan. This is actually the older one that does not have that. You have a reduced driveway now, which is on your packet on plans for delivered. In order to fit the septic system, so our amount of paving in front is quite a bit down. And that should be right here.
I think, was that what they brought this morning?
Yes, that's the, on the civil. So this is the smaller driveway. It used to be a big circle up in here in order to capture our septic field.
Excuse me. Shane, give us a moment while we pass this out.
Sure.
You are proposing a smaller hardscape in this presentation board. And it's different from the hard copies provided to the board, but it's appearing on a drainage plan, so I think they would be able to decipher that. I think.
that's the only modification to building it. You just,
That's the only modification.
Did you get one, Stan? Did you get one, Bill?
I'm-
yes, ma'am.
Yes,
It came about when we were doing the soil testing out there for the percolation field. We ended up having to pull forward further than expected.
Significant change.
We have three discouraged items. One being the overall height of the home, one being the percentage of pane glass in the rear, and one being the gate. This is a property that has an existing gate that's on the property that they're going to modify. So that was the third.
excuse me. Help me, Mr. Ames.
Yes.
The first story eve height, what is it you're proposing?
First story eve height is 12 and a half, and the second story eve height is 22 and a half.
And are those two in the discouraged area as well?
Yes.
So how many discouraged items do you have?
This is one of the other interpretations of your code that we go back and forth with. The code is grouped in one-story houses have, this is a discouraged item, and there's a couple of things listed. Two-story houses, there's a couple of items listed in it. So we take the if you're going to get a discouraged item, you take the discouraged, the item that has, this is a discouraged item, and it lists the things that are discouraged. So it's a group of discouraged to get that discouraged item, rather than individual line items on that. Because once you have a discouraged height, it's a discouraged height.
So what you're saying is, in other words, because the whole, in other words,
Because
because you
how
have an
the
entire
code is-
house,
right, how the
and
code
the
is
first
written.
story goes into the discouraged range, and the second story goes into the discouraged range, you're saying
It's one discouraged, because it's a two-story discouraged element
element, yeah.
under a two-story house. One-story houses have a list of discouraged items, two-story have a list of discouraged items.
The other point, can I just raise a point here, Bill? Sorry, the board. It says there were no gates in Casa Soleil. I'm sorry, I've got a set of gates on my house.
They have pointed that out. There
Yeah,
are
okay.
3 sets of gates in
Right,
Plaza
so,
Soleil
don't worry.
of the 100 homes.
Oh, sorry, but when it said date, it's just that it was a very recent addition, that was all.
That's right, we have a new application. And I guess I need to ask or state that in the past, it is my feeling that both the ARPB and Commission have identified eve heights individually, and that they were not grouped together as declaring as one single discouraged element. I believe that is your understanding in history also, Rita?
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure that's part of the discussion early on.
Then one of our other items was raising the seawall, bringing it up. It's currently in your code to have it at the 5.0, and we have a lot of problem with the rising tide and the wake from the boats splashing on the existing house up into the grass, killing everything. So we proposed to raise it to 6, and we're doing that trying to do that around as much as we can. On all of them.
I do believe our code has been modified and approved by the commission for that option.
Our central massing is all been okayed by the board's architect. This is a house that's very similar in design to one that is on the opposite point, directly to the south, with the only exception being that we've now taken the garage on this one and turned it to a side entry completely rather than the angled front entry to the other one.
One of the main things seems to be this window situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, the window situation is, we're underneath we're in the discouraged range for the window. We have the mullions in most of the rear windows. The only ones we don't are sliding glass doors, which are tucked way back up underneath the house in here. All the other windows across the back have the required mullions.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, sorry, I thought you were gonna do a presentation on the overall project, but I mean, obviously, you've been through that with the town manager, and you come up with this list of discouraged items, and I think that what I'd like to do is, first of all, is back out of this particular definition of whether things are preferred, discouraged, or prohibited, and just focus on the fact that the design manual is it really emphasizes, and I can read the language, but it emphasizes houses that have less of a vertical component. That's a very important part of the Gulf Stream architecture, is that we have houses that are more horizontal in form than vertical in form, and that's, I mean, this is all out of the design manual. intent of the design manual and the reason that we have these discouraged and prohibited ranges. I'm concerned because the street has, especially the houses at the end of the street are all single-story houses. And this house is going to be towering over both houses on either side. Further back on the road on the north side, there are two or three houses.
I have the photos of the
Of this
neighboring houses, they're
Yeah,
large 2 stories.
yeah, but
Yeah,
they're,
that's further, that's nearly on, I mean, so.
yeah. Let me just read, this is design standards. The design standards in this chapter, this is out of section 70-4 of the design manual, provide the town with a methodology and common framework for reviewing submissions and project approvals. They're either mandatory, discretionary, required, prohibited, or mandatory, preferred, and discouraged, or discretionary. And I have to say that there are 5 items: consistency of neighborhood character, consistency of architectural style, consistency of building form and mass, materials and colors, location of elements. Incorporation of preferred items into a design increases the probability but does not assure project approval. And then, discouraged would be those same things that aren't consistent with the neighborhood character, et cetera. This is, and another thing that has come up in the past is just this, I know that the manual sort of makes it sound as though there's this no more than 3 discouraged elements. However, my understanding from the interpretation of the design manual is that it doesn't, 3 discouraged items or less doesn't automatically approve the project. I mean, in other words, you can have a project that has 2 discouraged elements and it still can be not approved. So I mean, I just want to sort of pull back before we attack the specifics of the project. And obviously there are, so now we get into the details, which are all pointed out in the review. And we push the building to the maximum height in the discouraged element. We push the glass, the amount of window openings, practically to the maximum. And I think actually, I mean, from what I read, it would be the number of windows would actually be prohibited. And then there's the gate issue, and then we have things that aren't shown on the elevation, like skylights. This single-story, 2-story structure that's on the northwest corner of the garage. And I'd like to sort of attack everything one by one and see what we can do. And
Sure.
I think that perhaps the board might agree that the entry, I gather, see, we didn't have that in our packages, which is, we didn't have the entry feature with the balcony in our packages. Actually, all we had was that one down there. But let's see here. I think that if we could go through and perhaps discuss these and try to
Yes.
knock them out one by one. I mean, the biggest problem I see is this structure at the end of the garage, which is in your diagrams, which isn't a 2-story structure, yet it exceeds the height, goes into the prohibited area. Is there something that you can do about that? I mean, because that would definitely, to me, would make the project.
Yes, that wouldn't be actually a problem if this element were brought down to the eave height.
I think
The
it's
lower
just the
eave height.
storage space, it's described
It's
as
just storage
storage,
space,
isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, that can be definitely lowered down to the lower point.
To
The one thing on this particular lot, this is an oversized lot that is kind of a pie shape that's tucked way back, and the house is set about 70 feet back to the front of this piece. And so there's gonna be a great deal of landscape and everything up in front of that. So any of this stuff is mitigated, because this house is really set back.
Well, you may even step it back and still leave them some storage in it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with letting them have an attic there, but it's a very, very big room, and if it were, you know, if it were brought down and back, it would change the look.
Yeah, that can be definitely brought down.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's not a problem.
that would be, and then, I know this entry feature comes up quite a bit, and, I don't know how we can, address the entry feature, but
You prefer, which one do you prefer?
The one with the balcony.
Okay.
Yeah, we have,
And you said that
I've done probably a dozen homes in here in the Gulfstream that have a very, very similar feature to this over the front entranceway. They all have been in this same range and height over the years. And this is kind of a new interpretation that has come up.
In the top right-hand corner there, you do, that's compressed, the height is too compressed for you there, or that's acceptable to you?
This one here,
Mhm.
this is the same view, just,
Okay, and that, okay.
this is the same identical, just a look different angle.
so what is the red piece? Can you just bring that up?
This?
That's
That
right,
one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a trellis element that you walk through
But
the
this is
entranceway,
this.
just sitting right in here.
Oh, can you bring that closer to us so we can see? Oh, sorry, the actual, the
Oh,
color.
okay.
I see, okay, I see. You're gonna walk under that truss to the front door.
You walk under that trellis to get to the front door.
Oh, I see.
I've integrated a lot of trellis work on the home, front and rear,
That's in the back, that's not bad.
to help spread the, and throw shade and shadow. As you can see on the rear elevations, to soften the house up.
Because this is actually
all across.
in this piece. So that just moves that down.
Can I just, I'll go back then. Thanks.
You know, the work over the front door, while it probably is discouraged, again, just as we said, it seems to be in scale to the home, right?
Well, it's not solid, you know, you see through it, it's not a,
And there's really no language in the code saying that the height of that is measured to the top of the rail. It's always been to the underside of the eave of an overhang. So the,
yeah, as long as you have an open,
Yeah.
I mean, not a massive.
It's not a solid
railing,
wall.
I mean, it's sort of, I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I think that the balcony is much preferable over the roof.
Yeah.
And as long as the balcony, I mean, as long as the solid part falls within
it
the,
falls within the column.
within the acceptable range, then, that's the first thing. I say you're willing to take the garage element down. I think you'd
Yes.
have to have a new drawing of that for it to present to the commissioners, but
Yeah, that's easy to do.
Can I ask the other rendition you've done? Yeah. Bottom right-hand corner. One of the things that we're always trying to do is get away from massive, just plain walls, right? And you've got a lot of detail with the balcony on the right-hand side, and the left-hand side's broken up nicely. And then it seems to be a really flat face with no
In the middle there?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, and it's not a design issue, it's just literally one of the things we're trying to get away from is just slabs of wall, basically.
That could be easily, putting it, like a mansard roof running down,
It's just something that was-
tied into pieces together with roofing material.
And I know you're the interpreter of the design, and you're the architect.
Yeah.
It's just there seems to be this massive wall in between some interesting architecture, it breaks up the form.
From the top right-hand corner, look, you know, there is a lot of change
Yeah.
in front to back with that one section grid, and I think that little, put mansard roof through there would probably be
Yeah,
very.
They just break it up into one.
Now, where are we on, there seems to be a lot of glass on the back. Does this just stay under the amount of glass? It does.
Just barely,
Barely.
technically.
Yeah.
But it's under.
we see, I mean,
Here's the calculation sheet
Okay.
of the window opening massing.
We've had that verified by an outside.
It is, okay.
whatever.
But however, it's still very massive. amounts. and
There are
it's characteristic
currently-
of the neighborhood.
Help me, I'm just a little bit,
And that's only from the intercoastal side. The front side is well within all of the, front and sides are all well within the pieces you see from the street.
Can I make it, or you might interject a new question or something to help you with? I want to refer to the code as it relates to measurements. And the definition that's found in 70-100. It probably won't affect your overall decision, but I think something was said that I'm not sure was correct. It's probably me. However, 70-100A4, entry features are the front portion of the structure which provide door entrance to the dwelling. The height of the entry feature is measured from the finished floor elevation to the upper portion of any balcony, railing, Dutch gable, or other such elements. So,
yeah.
okay, so now, your question or something I might help you with?
Oh, just, well, just under section 71-101, the next
101.
page.
Windows.
Yeah.
And it's number 6. More than 50% of total window opening area of elevation, there must be a higher percentage of wall area than window area. And that, and what we're talking about here is what was the actual percentage?
We're under 50%.
Yeah, we're below
It's
50%.
48 and change.
48%.
It was 48, okay, well, that was, like, really.
But you see, that's,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And it's been independently verified.
it's been independently verified. However, the view that you see of it could be adjusted, I believe, by any condition that appropriate for the design.
Well, so
Even
40,
though it's under the 50%.
so we're at 48%,
You're technically
technically 48%.
at 48%
Which is-
technically allowed. Or
And if I were to,
Not
because
discouraged.
our upper roof height is actually 6 inches lower than we can do another 6 inches higher on that. And if I do raise the entire height of the upper roof, it brings that percentage up to 45. But we didn't need all that, the extra height up on top.
The, and then we have, so we have, that's glass, gate. What are we, where are you on the gate? Because clearly the gate is a big issue. I remember it came up in some meetings before.
the gate remained on the previous approval or presentation application because it was existing and the house was not demolished. You now have a house, you're starting from scratch, so the entire code is applicable at this point in time. And in my opinion, the gates are a discouraged item. And there are 3 existing gates in the entire district, Paso Soleil. Those are pre-existing conditions. And in the event that 75% or more of the home structure value were to be altered or removed and changed, then those homes, those other 2 homes would also have to conform completely to the existing code at that point in time.
In other words, so the
gate that's there is no longer
Grant.
grandfathered.
It's not
Okay.
really, this whole thing's being.
Sounds like an account.
Yeah.
That's not a deal breaker for my owner.
okay.
Something he would like to have, but it's not a deal breaker.
He can have entry posts, but, and walls, right, but just not gates, is that correct?
I think we said that last time.
Bill?
You said we.
I don't know about
Yeah, I think we
walls.
said- No, sorry, entry
Piers.
posts.
Piers.
are-
Piers.
It's
Piers
clear in my
only.
mind on piers, I'm
Okay,
not
so,
Yeah.
so,
on anything else.
just piers only, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we did that last time.
It's not that much space, so you can landscape that.
Okay,
And what you're not seeing just for clarity, you'll be able to see the house on the rear of all this whole thing, is the landscaping that's going in.
The,
From day one, because that's the other thing we're pushing for, is the
Yeah.
fact from day one, it's not that it grows into it, and in a couple of years' time it covers, it's from day one.
Another item, another item in this application that I forgot to look up in the design manual, that's incorporated in the roof plans. There are 4 large, very large skylights.
Yes.
Incorporated in that attic storage space. They aren't in any of the elevations, yet they are so large that certainly people viewing, especially from the south.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
What section are you in?
I
They're all
I
like garage.
forgot to look up skylights, and I
Okay,
didn't know what.
so you're asking for,
Yeah, the skylights were okay.
They were, okay, good.
Yeah, we have,
Oh, there.
there's 2 of them right here,
Okay.
small flush ones, and then on the inside, you don't even see, there's 2 more on the opposite side, which is on the roof and,
Yeah, we can see.
this is the attic storage. There's a ridge that runs down the middle, there's 1 on each side. And they're not viewable from the street.
And we're recommending that front piece there is going to be pushed back a little. It's gonna take up some of the space in that attic
Yeah,
storage.
this
right?
whole squish down. Pull all that back down.
Well, I have one more thing, and this is Shane, this is a bigger picture thing. Yes, sorry, okay. The house has on the north side, there's a 2-story portion, which is, it falls within, obviously within the setback, yet there's no step back from the neighboring property. In other words, so the neighboring property is gonna have right back from the setback, a 2-story wall extending up. So that was, if you're looking at
That elevation.
at the left side of your elevation, we can even go up to the picture. Yeah, that.
There is a roof,
There's
a lower roof element
Yes.
across the piece on the side. Doesn't show on here, but it's back up in there to mitigate that 2-story nature of that,
Yeah.
like the trellises.
Well, here's the part of
Here
the
it is.
code.
It's actually this bottom elevation up here.
What does help break it up, however, the problem is that it breaks up the facade, yet you have those windows up there that are looking down over the neighbor's property to the north. And building form is very important, in my opinion, to Gulfstream. And let me just read, from section 70-237, building form. Now, characteristics. Now, this has to do with, it says Gulfstream Bermuda houses are patterned after simple rectilinear forms. Although the majority is a rectangle, many houses have L or U shapes. But underneath that section is part B, step backs. The use of step backs is appropriate to reduce excessive bulkiness and provide a transition from first and second stories. A few critical step backs in a building are better than several minor step backs that only complicate the facade of the architecture. And under preferred items are smaller second story configurations, step backs to a second story. And what we have in the application that really concerns me is a 2-story section that falls right, is practically on the setback from the property to the north. And that really isn't completely consistent with the area-wide standards, especially having the 2-story section go right to the top of the prohibited range of the prohibited range for eave height. And I've just great, but that's, obviously, the sections that, a lot of this is on the water. The garage is 1 story, the 2-story section is facing the golf course. It's not really an issue, but it's that that 2-story section of the house, that part right there. And that to me isn't in keeping with the design manual in that it's a massive element to have within that, right at the setback to the property. Is there something that we can do about that, lowering the eave height?
You know, it's interesting, on the ground floor, there's a little kick out there.
There's a
for
kick
all
out
of them.
on this whole piece here that comes out 5 feet.
You see this kick
To
out
create-
on the lower level?
Yeah.
A step
And
back.
then it's not there on the second level, so that there is, I get it is flat, I agree with you. Feel it on the right side of that piece, there's a flat piece, but there is a lot going on, I would think, between lower and upper floor on the, you know, there's a 4 or 5 foot roof, is that right?
Yes, this comes out 5 feet all the way across.
And is there a part of the building that comes out there? Because in your floor plan of the ground floor, it says there's maybe a tub in there, a bathtub?
That's this element right here. That's a high window, there's a tub and a
So
bathroom.
that
in there.
does come out,
That goes all around.
and it only is in the lower level.
The wall isn't broken, so you could.
Yeah, but the wall isn't broken.
Oh, and I agree.
Yeah. And so I think with the first story, I don't have any problem with going to the top of the discouraged range in the first story. The side garages, but however, going right to the maximum end of the discouraged range for the 2-story parts of the house, especially if you come right up to the setback line, within a couple of feet of the setback line, and especially since you have the neighboring houses are both 1-story houses, this is going to be, the vertical component of this house is going to be overpowering.
Well,
On the lot, right
On P06, it shows the vicinity map shows the existing 2-story structure. That's coming down, right?
Yes, there's an existing 2-story structure that's already there.
You have something that shows how the proposed new 2-story structure would be sited on a vicinity map. I mean, again,
in relation to its neighbors?
yeah, I mean, it looks to me like that proposed house is a lot larger
Than the one that's there now.
than the
Yeah.
one that's there now.
The current house is right on the line, and it's actually, there's also a roof thing that is built right to the
There's
edge.
an over where the garage used to come.
Yeah.
But that's a 1-story section. I agree with the 2-story section, but it's also the eave on the 2-story home that's there presently
Mhm.
is a lot lower than what you're proposing.
Correct.
And
And we do have a very high hedge blocking between the 2 properties. It's currently there, it's going to be remaining. And if we can do a higher landscape package to help mitigate any of that, the windows, the window on there it's out of a hallway, it makes no difference if it's there or if it's way up in the air. The one in the back is a back corner window, has intercoastal views up in there.
I think what we have here is a design that with too much of a vertical component to it, especially as it approaches the property setback lines.
Has there been any feedback?
One of the problems,
Any feedback from the neighbors? Rita?
No, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't been actual word, but there has been a representative from one of the neighbors come in and look at all of it. And we haven't had any feedback from that visit.
one problem is the symmetry of the entranceway. If the part in question is back down here, if this portion of the wall, the second floor, was set back, it does the same thing on the other side. Kind of screws up where there's a stairwell that runs up into this thing. And the beauty of the whole thing is the symmetry of the entrance we're coming into here. Beefing up that lower roof again, like we're doing in the rear, could be done where,
But I think, I understand what you're saying, but that's really more of a break between the first and second stories.
Correct.
But my issue is just that the second story, the eave on the second story is just, it's overpowering for the property to the north of it. I mean, it's just, there's gonna be the wall with the window, and yes, that whole piece is gonna be towering over the property to the north of it. And what I would, and I know, of course, that as an architect, you like to give the client the maximum ceiling height on the first and second story inside the house. However, I feel that is inconsistent with the intent of the design manual and reducing the vertical massing. If an eave which goes to the maximum end of the discouraged range, more within the center of the property, is something that's palatable, yet an eave that's at the maximum end of the discouraged range, so close to the property line, and not in keeping with the properties, the adjoining properties, is a big issue. And, I mean, I think lowering the overall height to get more into the middle of the discouraged range, the more you could lower the height of the eave, to me, the better, because just the vertical component of the house is too great.
we have on the side setback here, the minimum is 15. We start out at 16 and a half, and we go back to 18 and a half. So I tried pushing the house as far this way as
That's
possible.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked to see if you could shove the, I'm not joking, the whole house south, but you then run into setbacks on the south side, right?
Right in
Yeah, right in
this
there.
location right here. And of course, there's a back out distance of the garage we want to maintain.
Right.
Because the original design was very similar to the one that's opposite. It had a front entry
What's that?
Square foot.
this way, and we took that and
And flipped it over to the
flipped
side,
it over
yeah.
to the side.
All right, so what's the best thing to do now? The architect, having heard our comments and feelings, go back and come back to us with some of the changes we recommended? Wouldn't we like to see them? Or would we
Make those up.
approve it subject to those changes being made before it gets to the council?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of trouble,
Yeah, okay.
allowing the project to go through based on the fact that the eave, on the second story eave heights is so close to the property. And just the massive, so it's the mass and scale of the house. I think we've addressed the garage, that piece that comes off the end of the garage. I think that we're all in
Okay,
keeping
with
with
the entrance.
the entrance and doing the balcony entrance, but the non-balcony portion has to fall within the discouraged range.
We've addressed the east side as well, breaking that massive.
Yes,
Yeah.
breaking up the mass.
You're gonna push the front of the garage, the second story of the front of the garage back some, correct?
Right.
They just want that the eave will
It'll
come
be
down.
Down back and bring the eave down, right?
Based on all of these suggested
Lot of changes.
alterations and trying to envision myself communicating this to the commission, it seems as though it could make sense to suggest that the architect make these modifications and bring it back to the ARPB for further review.
Okay, will someone make such a motion?
Make sure you're all on the same page in regard to each of them, because
Yes.
Hewlett was talking about this setback on that east, what is it, the east side? North side.
Just- yeah.
And everything you've done so far up to then is something that he can deal with, I think. But are the majority of you in keeping with what Hewlett is saying in regard to that last issue? Because, as has been explained, that may destroy the symmetry of the house, but maybe you're asking that the whole roof height come down. I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling for where you are on that issue.
Or whether it's dealt with a heavier landscape package on that side of the house, an increased pop-out piece where the mid-range piece is, or to eliminate some of the upper windows.
I think we have to get the eave lower, and whether it means lowering on that section of the house, the entire eave, on that, as you said, you didn't want to break it up at all, or push the walls back, but I think if the eave were to drop down, the massing is just too great, that goes to the property line.
Unfortunately, there's one example already in Plaza Soleil where there's massing against the second story and the first story.
Yeah,
It's, there's, basically there's something there which doesn't work already, so that's one of the reasons why I'd like to see it addressed.
yeah, I'm in agreement with Hewlett, but we have to let the architect, if he's the professional here, come back to us. He's hearing us, and let him work with it when he's not standing in front of 7 people, so. He may have troubles with that, but I don't think coming back to us with saying, this is it and that's the only thing we can do is gonna work, correct?
Right.
Okay, so we'll let the architect work his professional magic, right? Can we have a motion to defer? Oh, sorry, Stan.
Well,
We can have a motion to defer. I wanted to know, how big is the existing two-story residence, square footage wise, is that?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
From the sketch, it's not there.
Doesn't look like
And it looks like it's a pretty small house compared to what's being built there. And I'd like to see
Yeah,
this
it's
drawing
small. Yeah, it's
with the footprint.
It's a smaller, because we actually had
proposed.
done
Okay.
approved a guest house, a big addition onto that house, and then the price got so much to do all that, and all the renovations in the house, that it just wasn't worth it. We decided to build a new house.
Well, Stan's saying, could you give us a sketch of the end of the cul-de-sac with this footprint on it?
It's in the
It's
map.
on P6, P06.
When it comes back.
When it comes back, we could see that, but maybe you could just sketch the footprint of the new home at the end of the cul-de-sac so that
Sure.
it's in proportion to the others.
And the gate will be removed and the hardscape will be
Yeah, the gate we can
consolidated
remove.
into all these other changes.
Correct. As far as the skylights we're okay with,
skylights
The
are good.
skylights are
Okay.
addressed in 70 -99 subsection 3, and I do not believe that it's prohibited as proposed.
Good, I'm sorry, I just hadn't looked that up before the meeting, that was all, I just wanted to make sure that we were.
It's
we were
kind
on board.
of,
So I would say, just, for me, it's just that we have to reduce the vertical massing of the structure, and
by either pushing the house setback wise, or,
I don't know if you, I don't think
I
this.
think that's your,
Yes, it's up to you.
That's up to you.
can I recommend that when you go to Plaza Soleil, Avenue Soleil, go on the circle, far east side of the circle, and you'll see an example of massing overlooking the first floor property.
Okay.
I think that's, yeah.
Shane's house. I mean, has he designed?
No.
Is that, no, it's not, okay.
Could be, I don't know. No, I don't. Listen, if you go to Plaza Soleil, go to the end, go around the circle, go as far in the southeast as you can. You can't miss it.
no, that one's not mine.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
I guess I have one more comment. It sounds as though the feeling is that regardless of increasing setbacks or augmenting the proposed landscaping, the vertical height of the proposed structure standing alone is too much. Is that correct?
But he's under the code.
It's the,
isn't
yeah.
He is,
It's the
but-
massing,
but-
it's the massing.
It
It's
seems
the block
like
effect.
Mr. Kent referred in his very first remarks to a section of code that, when continued, talked about conditions. The code provides the ability for making conditions of approval. So even though it might be within, you have those options, as suggested by Mr. Kent.
And I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for the commission, but this has become a very, this two-story massing has become a big concern on the part of the commission. I mean, just from what we've seen, we approved a project that was rejected by the commission. And I can't remember if it was sent back to us or, I guess it was sent back to us, but there was a house that
That
was
was
stayed last
all
spring.
revised, I think.
Yeah, it was
Totally
changed.
revised.
It's gonna be a one and a two-story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, this vertical massing has become a very sensitive issue. And really it's addressed not so much in particular under the eave heights, you know,
Yeah,
the
it calls for,
windows and things like that, but it's just the overall, it's the descriptions, building form, roof and eave heights, and massing. That's what it really falls under. It's more of a general thing, but it's one of those things that, you know. So,
Okay,
is the applicant okay with deferral? Because, I mean, it is within his purview to bring it to the commissioners, even if we haven't approved it, so to speak.
Well, your options are to recommend denial or to recommend deferral, to allow him to take your comments into consideration. And deferral should be to a time certain, which I assume would be the next meeting. You'd be ready by the next meeting?
Yes.
So your motion should be to defer to a particular date, which Rita will tell you, and to take into account all of the comments that have been made here today.
That is good.
Now, would you prefer if when I present the 3D renderings, to put the actual landscape on them and do the flyby?
I think the design manual, I mean, we talk about landscaping, it's an important component of any application. However, when it's almost a separate thing. I mean, the building has to almost stand on its own. I mean, there is a lot of mention about landscaping and screening and all those things, but I think it's important that the structure stand on its own merit, and then the landscaping is a secondary piece.
Yeah, sort of complementary as opposed to mitigating.
Yes, what's that?
Right, but do you want me to, so the renderings that I have don't show the actual landscaping that's going in.
It always helps
Okay.
to see the finished article.
Is a deferral, if we were to push this out to the next meeting, is that sufficient time for you to?
Yes.
Does it need to go back further than that?
Yeah, that's,
That date would be October the 22nd.
So is there a motion to defer?
A motion to defer, consideration of the application pending revisions to October 22nd, is that?
Yes, that's right.
I'll second that.
Rita, it's been moved and seconded.
Mr. Rubini?
I,
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Rita.
Very good.
Rita, thank you. At this time, I need to leave the meeting.
Yes.
Going to-
I'll make a note of
Have a
that.
good trip.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to run on this guy. I think it's a little bit here, but it's not here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You had a nice house. And look at sheer wall.
Here you go. I see it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thomas. Thomas.
Next on the agenda, we have an application submitted by Philip F. Luckner, architect, as agent for Joseph, pardon the last name, Lasmaji. Thank you. Owner of property located at 2655 North Ocean Boulevard, Apartment D, and guest suite F, Villa de As, Gulfstream, Florida 32483, legally described as Apartment D and guest suite F of Villa de As, a condominium according to the declaration of condominium record in O.R.Book 1154, page 234.
Did you bring that one?
Could we pause just a moment here?
Sure. We'll get it all for you later.
proceed.
Please.
The applicant is coming in with a level 2 architectural site plan review to permit the replacement of the doors on the second floor balcony with sliding glass doors, install an entry door, and replace an existing divided fixed glass window with an undivided